The rain hammered against the tinted windows of the black limousine like 1,000 desperate fingers seeking entry. Inside, Marcus Chen sat in silence, his $6,000 suit doing nothing to warm the cold emptiness that had settled in his chest. At 42, he had everything the world told him to want. A tech empire worth billions, penthouses in 3 countries, and enough power to move markets with a single tweet. Yet tonight, parked outside the children's hospital where he'd just written another meaningless check for a photo opportunity, he felt like the poorest man alive. His driver had stepped out to grab coffee, leaving Marcus alone with his thoughts. Dangerous company on the anniversary of the day he'd lost everything that mattered. 3 years ago, his wife Sarah had walked out, taking their daughter Emma with her. Not because he was cruel or unfaithful, but because he was absent. "You've already married your company," she'd said, her voice breaking. "There's no room for us in your life." He'd been too proud to fight for them then, too convinced that success would prove he'd made the right choices. Now his daughter was 7, and he was a stranger who sent extravagant gifts through his assistant. A sudden tapping on the window jolted him from his spiral. Marcus pressed the button to lower it halfway, expecting a reporter or another executive seeking a moment of his time. Instead, he found himself looking into the enormous brown eyes of a little girl, no more than 6 years old, soaked to the bone. Her thin jacket offered no protection from the downpour, and her shoes, 2 sizes too small, were held together with duct tape. But it was her smile that struck him first, bright and genuine despite the water streaming down her face. "Excuse me, mister," she said with startling confidence. "I don't mean to bother you, but I have a business proposal." Marcus blinked. In 20 years of negotiations, no one had ever caught him so off guard. "A business proposal? Yes, sir." She pushed wet hair from her face with the seriousness of someone presenting to a boardroom. "You see, my mama is inside that hospital. She's been sick for a long time, and the nice doctors are trying real hard to help her. But mama worries all the time. About money, about me, about everything. She needs someone to help her, to tell her everything's gonna be okay." The girl paused, her small hands gripping the window edge. "And I heard your driver call you, Mr. Chen, when you got in. I looked you up on the nurse's phone. You're very important, very successful. You have everything except you look like you're missing something too." Marcus felt something crack in his chest. "What makes you say that?" "Because rich people who have everything don't sit alone in dark cars crying when they think nobody's watching." The observation hit like a physical blow. Marcus hadn't even realized the tears on his face until she mentioned them. He cleared his throat, trying to regain his composure, but this child had somehow seen through every wall he'd built. "So what's your proposal?" he heard himself ask. The little girl's smile widened. "You need a wife, and I need a dad. I think my mama and you should meet. She's the best person in the whole world. She's kind and funny and makes the best pancakes, and she never gives up even when things are really, really hard. And I would be a really good daughter. I make excellent macaroni art, and I'm very good at hugs." Marcus couldn't help it. He laughed, a real laugh that came from somewhere deep and forgotten. "You're offering to set me up with your mother." "I'm offering to help both of you," she corrected with the wisdom of someone far older than her years. "Mama always says that the best deals are when everybody wins. You look like you need a family, and we need a lot of things, but mostly we need someone who will love us. Not our situation, not what we might give them, but just us." Before Marcus could respond, a woman's panicked voice cut through the rain. Lily, where are you?" The little girl turned, waving. "Over here, Mama." A woman emerged from the hospital entrance, racing toward them despite her obvious exhaustion. She was thin, her scrubs suggesting she worked at the hospital, but even through the rain, Marcus could see the fierce protective love in her eyes. When she reached the limousine, she pulled her daughter back, her face a mixture of relief and horror. "I am so sorry," she gasped, looking at Marcus. "Lily, you can't just approach strangers, cars. I've told you." She stopped mid-sentence, really seeing her daughter's soaked clothes. Without hesitation, she stripped off her own jacket and wrapped it around the girl, leaving herself in just scrubs and the rain. "Mama, don't," Lily protested. "You'll get cold. You just got out of treatment." Treatment. The word hung in the air, explaining everything, the thinness, the exhaustion, the hospital location. This woman wasn't an employee, she was a patient. And she'd given her jacket to her daughter without a second thought. Mrs. Marcus began. Rodriguez. Sophie Rodriguez. And this is Lily. Sophie's voice was apologetic but dignified. Again, I'm so sorry. She has this way of believing the best in everyone. I hope she didn't disturb you. Marcus found himself opening the car door, stepping out into the rain. His driver would have a heart attack about the ruined suit, but he didn't care. Actually, your daughter just made me a business proposal. I'd like to discuss it further, if you'll allow me. Sophie looked bewildered. A business proposal? Mama, I told him you need a husband and I need a dad, Lily announced proudly. Sophie's face went through several shades of red. Lily Marie Rodriguez. You did not. I am so sorry, Mr. Chen. Marcus Chen. And please, don't apologize. He looked at this woman, at her daughter, at the way they stood together against the world despite having every reason to give up. Your daughter is remarkably perceptive. I do need a wife. I had one, and a daughter too, and I was stupid enough to let them go because I thought building an empire was more important than building a family. He knelt down to Lily's level, rain streaming down his face. But I have to be honest with you. I don't know if I remember how to be a good dad. I might mess it up. Lily considered this seriously, then placed her small wet hand on his cheek. That's okay. Mama says the best people are the ones who know they don't know everything. They're the ones who try the hardest. Marcus looked up at Sophie, at this woman who was fighting cancer while raising a daughter alone, who gave away her only jacket without hesitation, who had somehow raised a child with more emotional intelligence than most adults he knew. Would you maybe let me buy you both dinner? Somewhere warm and dry. No obligations, no strings. Just a conversation. Sophie hesitated, her hand protectively on Lily's shoulder. Marcus could see her calculating, weighing, was this safe? Was he genuine? Could she trust this stranger? Please, Mama, Lily whispered. He needs us. I can tell. It was that last part that did it. Not that they needed him, but that he needed them. Sophie's eyes met Marcus's, and something unspoken passed between them. Recognition, perhaps, of two people who'd been fighting their battles alone for too long. Okay, she said softly. Just dinner. That dinner lasted 4 hours. They went to a small diner that Sophie loved, where the owner knew her name and Lily's favorite was grilled cheese with tomato soup. Marcus learned that Sophie had been a nurse before her diagnosis, that she'd lost her husband to a heart attack 2 years ago, that she sold her paintings online to pay for bills insurance didn't cover. He learned that Lily wanted to be a veterinarian or a superhero, she hadn't decided yet, and that her favorite book was about a pig who could talk to spiders. And somewhere between the pie and the terrible diner coffee, something shifted. Marcus talked about Emma, about his regrets, about how he'd let ambition blind him to what mattered. Sophie talked about fear and hope, about teaching Lily to be brave when she herself was terrified. They talked like old friends, like people who recognized in each other a shared understanding of loss and the desperate desire for second chances. Lily fell asleep against Marcus's shoulder, her small body trusting in a way that made his throat tight. She never does that with strangers, Sophie whispered, her eyes bright with unshed tears. She's usually so cautious. Maybe I'm not a stranger, Marcus said quietly. Maybe some people are meant to find each other, even in the most unexpected ways. That night began something neither of them could have predicted. Marcus didn't propose marriage or offer money, he knew that would insult everything Sophie was. Instead, he asked if he could see them again. And again. He showed up to Lily's school play. He sat with Sophie through her chemotherapy, holding her hand through the nausea. He learned to make pancakes, badly at first, then better. He read bedtime stories and helped with homework and slowly, carefully, began to understand what it meant to show up, not as a CEO or a checkbook, but as a person. He also called his ex-wife and fought, really fought, for time with Emma. I can't undo the past, he told Sarah. But I'm learning to be better. Please, let me try. Sarah, seeing genuine change rather than empty promises, gave him a chance. Emma was wary at first, but Lily's enthusiasm was infectious, and soon the two girls were inseparable. 6 months later, Sophie's scans came back clear. Standing in the hospital parking lot where they'd first met, Marcus got down on one knee, not with a ring from some exclusive jeweler, but with one he'd made himself in a metalworking class Lily had insisted he take with her. "I'm still figuring this out," he told Sophie, his voice shaking. "I still work too much sometimes. I still mess up bedtime stories. But you and Lily taught me something I'd forgotten, that success isn't what you build, it's who you build it with. You've given me a second chance at being the person I should have been all along." "Say yes, Mama," Lily shouted from where Emma held her back. "I did good business, right?" Sophie laughed through her tears, pulling Marcus up to kiss him. "Yes, to all of it, yes." They married in a small ceremony that fall, with both girls as flower girls and Marcus's driver, who'd become an unexpected friend, as best man. Marcus didn't sell his company, but he restructured his life around what mattered. He coached soccer teams and attended school concerts. He and Sophie opened a foundation supporting single parents dealing with medical crises. Emma and Lily became the sisters both had always wanted. And sometimes, on rainy nights, Marcus would drive past that hospital where a soaked little girl had seen straight into his soul and offered him salvation disguised as a business proposal. He'd remember how close he'd come to missing it all, this beautiful, messy, perfect life, because he'd been too lost in his own darkness to see the light. Lily had been right that night. He'd needed a wife, she'd needed a dad, and sometimes the best deals really are when everybody wins. But more than that, she'd taught him that the truest measure of success isn't what you accumulate, but what you give away, your time, your presence, your heart. In helping them, he'd saved himself. In letting them in, he'd finally found his way home.